The Witcher 4 just keeps on getting more news. Every time I turn around, there's another interview that pops up that gives us even more details about The Witcher 4. This time we have CDPR that addressed some of the controversy surrounding Ciri becoming a Witcher as well as being the main protagonist. A new comment was surfaced from a narrative director that actually spoke on Ciri taking the Trial of the Grasses. So we'll talk about that. We also have some details regarding what platforms The Witcher 4 could be released on and so much more. We have a lot to cover, so check the video chapters for easy viewing and let's get started. So the first interview that we're going to reference is from Games Radar, and the statement was posed given how powerful Ciri was by the end of Wild Hunt, and given this new connection between the world of the Witchers and the world of sorcerers, CDPR is quick to assure that the steps have been taken to avoid power creep, which was one of my biggest concerns about Ciri being the protagonist. But they said the gap between her being totally overpowered at the end of the previous game and now with the skill set we showed off in the trailer, something totally happened in between. We had to delve deep to consider how we would address this. We have a huge respect for the lore, for both the books and for what made it into our previous games, but this was one of the first questions we found the answer for, and it's how we were able to create this original story, which starts with The Witcher 4. The interview continued on by saying Ciri wrapping a silver chain around the Bauk's neck may be a fun callback to the Witcher's opening cinematic, but how she is able to enchant this utility tool with fire is unlike anything Geralt could have achieved in that iconic fight, to which the executive producer said, what you've seen is a tease, but it's there for a reason. You could see the swords, you could see the chain, and you could see her using magic too, and how she uses them all against the boosted monster she encounters. It's there to show you what our ambition is with The Witcher 4. Sebastian Kalimba then said, we wanted to sell this idea of Ciri being fearless. Of course she's afraid because this monster represents fear, but let's say this is the first layer of combat is actually about the Bauk. The monster is playing with Ciri's inner fears and demons. She's able to slice it and cut him up a bit, and this is the way she defeats the first layer of the monster. That's one thing, but we also wanted to sell this idea of there being really creepy monsters that we've never experienced in this world, and the Bauk is just one of many monsters you'll encounter later in this game, but it represents this idea of what the next level of monster hunting is. Sebastian then said that CDPR wants to create this feeling that monsters are a real threat, not only to Ciri, but to the people who occupy the world around her. He then said that in this case, the monster is so dangerous that for years it was eating people and somehow forced these people to believe in some superstition. That's why they thought that he was a god for them, because Ciri is probably the very first character that was able to look in his eyes and really understand what this creature is about. And I think that's a great statement that we set out here with the trailer. The Games Radar interview concluded by Sebastian saying, we tend to make very character driven stories, and I would say this is our power. We tailor the entire story around the character, allowing you to immerse yourself even more as we expand this world to showcase new regions. So next up, we have another interview, this time from VGC, where they actually talked about the controversy surrounding Ciri becoming a Witcher as well as the main protagonist, to which the developer said this, and I quote, I think we definitely knew it would be controversial for some people because, of course, in the previous 3 Witcher games, Geralt was the main protagonist, and I think everyone loved playing as Geralt. The narrative director, Philip Weber, then continued on and said, I really loved playing as Geralt, so I think we're aware that if some people think right now that they would still prefer to be Geralt, I do think that that's a legitimate concern, so if this is where that concern is coming from, that's valid. The narrative director then said, the best thing we can do, and I think this is really our goal, is to prove that with Ciri we can do a lot of interesting things so we can really make it worth it, because this decision to have Ciri as a protagonist wasn't made yesterday. We started making this a very long time ago. They then said that Ciri was already being set up as a second protagonist in the Andrzej Sapkowski novels and as the second playable character in The Witcher 3, so for us it was the natural evolution of what we have already been making for so long. Philip then said, at the same time, of course, with Ciri being at the beginning of her journey as a Witcher, it also tells us new stories of what it means to become a Witcher. So for those of you who are worried right now, if that comes from a place of passion, I want to say, I think the next time we show the game, our goal is to show and prove that Ciri can be a worthy protagonist for The Witcher 4. The executive producer then popped up and said, we are also overwhelmed by so many people liking the choice, being excited for it, understanding where it came from, also actually doing a little bit of our job. The community itself is doing the explanation on why it's the correct choice. She then said that everyone has a right to an opinion, and we do believe it comes from the passion for our games, and I think the best answer for that will be the game itself when the game is released. The VGC interview then says this, and I quote, CDPR says it's being much more deliberate about what it shows from The Witcher 4 and when. VGC stated that despite the reveal trailer, it doesn't seem likely that we'll see more of The Witcher 4 soon, to which the developer said, we are not yet starting the marketing campaign, we want to remind our fans that we are coming back with The Witcher. This is just a bit, we have more plans for the future, but they plan on starting the real campaign much closer to release when everything is settled. And they said that I think Phantom Liberty has shown nicely the direction of change that we are going and has worked well. The focus of the interview then shifted on The Witcher 3's side quests, to which VGC said The Witcher 3 side quests were incredibly well received due to their ability to flex between something lighthearted, like a swashbuckling adventure, or Geralt endlessly chasing the ladies, to much heavier themes. Everything felt grounded in the same universe and tied to the same characters. To which the executive producer said, the importance of our stories is that they are always connected to the world. It's not like going, oh, this is the problem that we want to tackle. No, it feeds into the overall story to the world, to the region's problems, so we always want to put those there for context of the game. They then said that there are many people that might be ready to play The Witcher 4 once it comes out that were children when The Witcher 3 was being made. And then they said, we want to ensure that when The Witcher 4 releases, this is a game that a completely new audience can enjoy, but at the same time, we are of course also aware, and this is why we call the game The Witcher 4, that this is a sequel to the 3 previous games. You could rest assured that we take this seriously. This is a sequel to those experiences fully, and of course that also means that we do respect the stories and characters that were introduced in those games before. We want to marry those two things. The executive producer then said, we are all players, we are doing it for our players. We think all the time about the experience, what the world needs, and what we want to tell the world. We're making the game that we as fans of the series would want to play. We want to make a really good story. We're not just thinking about the reaction. We have a message we want to tell. We want to touch the player and tell them something important and stay there with them. Philip Weber, the narrative director, then said, we don't want to break those core qualities that we established with the previous 3 Witcher games, but we do want to improve in other areas where we really feel like that's something where we can grow. The open world doesn't necessarily need to be bigger and bigger, but the open world can be deeper and more immersive, more systematic, and I think that's something that's really exciting to look at. The executive producer then said, I would say making a feature for the game is not about making the best feature ever. It's about making the best feature in the time you have. It's more about the ambition of having really complex and immersive things going on, and not necessarily about the actual size. Of course, it's a single player open world RPG. It's going to be big. The VGC interview concluded with Philip Weber saying, we always say that whatever we do, we want to have it be meaningful, and it means it can only be so much that is actually meaningful and interesting. Once we would have to start repeating stuff, I think that's when it's too big. Now, to continue on that last point, when it comes to the actual open world size, it sounds like they're not really doubling down on the world size. It'll be pretty much the same size as The Witcher 3, but their goal is to provide more depth to those experiences and to those regions. So rather than having a game that is as wide as an ocean and as deep as a puddle, it sounds like they want the experience to be uniform. So if they have a game that's as wide as an ocean, they want it to have as much depth as an ocean as well. So next up, we have a developer over at CD Projekt Red that actually comments on Ciri undergoing the trial of the grasses, to which they said this: thanks a lot for this video and the passion. I can't reveal any spoilers, but we definitely won't take the trial lightly. It's a huge deal, and how this could even work for Ciri and how others react to this happening is definitely a huge part of the story we're going to tell. So there you have it once again. This is once again confirmation of a developer confirming that Ciri undergoing the trial of the grasses will indeed be a narrative beat in the game. And it's like, what do you expect? Do you want them to just spoil everything before the game comes out so that when it releases, like, you know everything? It's like they're making a game for a reason. We're gonna experience this stuff once it drops. So now let's talk about what platforms The Witcher 4 is going to be released on. As you guys know from the teaser trailer, we know that this cinematic was running on an unannounced NVIDIA GeForce RTX graphics card, which for me, I was immediately like, okay, this is a 5090 we're talking about, maybe like a 6090, who knows? But according to Sebastian Kalimba in an interview with Eurogamer, they actually talked about platforms themselves. They said that the team is working on new technology using Unreal Engine 5 and our custom build, but of course he doesn't mention what machines the game can run on, but he did say this, and I quote, obviously we want to support all of the platforms, meaning PC, Xbox, and Sony, right? But I cannot right now tell you more specifics regarding that, which, let's be honest, if it releases on a 5090, that tells me that The Witcher 4 will be on the Xbox Series X and S, the PlayStation 5 and the PS5 Pro, and of course the PC. If you were expecting the game to release on PS4 and Xbox One, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty didn't support those consoles, so I would not expect the next CDPR game to support those consoles as well. And the last thing that I want to mention is, according to Sebastian Kalimba, the interviews might not be over just yet. I thought for sure that CDPR would be going dark whenever it comes to interviews, but maybe we're gonna have more. I'll let you guys be the judge of it, but either way, guys, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the the channel with your notifications turned on so you're not missing out on any future gaming news on The Witcher 4 specifically. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.